So today we'll be looking at question 1 from the 2018 paper of BMAT section 3. We're given this quote by the philosopher John Stuart Mill. Liberty consists in doing what one desires. We have to explain the reasoning behind this statement, present a counter-argument, and finally discuss to what extent do you agree that freedom is doing what you want. Now, first of all, I want to see whether you can paraphrase Mill's quote, because that's what I find useful in some questions like this, is by paraphrasing the quote, it helps you better understand by having to simplify it. It helps you better understand the reasoning behind the statement and the logic going behind it. So this is how I paraphrased it. Liberty is defined as being able to just do what you want. And this can manifest in different ways. One way it could manifest is the freedom to act without interference from other people. Can you think of how this applies to real life? Well, I think a big one people talk about is something like freedom of speech. So freedom of speech, it means you can speak whatever you desire. You can speak whatever you want, and you're free from interference from other people. Other people can't censor you. So knowing this, can you now have a go at explaining the reasoning behind the statement in an introductory paragraph of your own? And then I'll show you something I've done. So this is what I've done. The philosopher John Stuart Mill writes that liberty consists in doing what one desires. That liberty should be the power to do whatever one wants without fear of another interfering to stop them. Therefore, if you want to say something, we should be free from censorship if Mill's idea of liberty were in place. So now we have to provide a counter-argument to John Stuart Mill's quote. And to be honest, I found this quite hard because I think John Stuart Mill's quote, his definition of liberty is actually quite good. And I'll get onto this a bit later, of course, as we discuss our conclusion. But I did find it quite difficult to find a counter-argument. But the way I eventually went about it, and as to why this may not be a definition of liberty, is by thinking about whether there's something you can add to this definition. I mean, it's good, but what ways could you make it better and use that as the basis for your counter-argument? So let's consider this, at least to me, not too unfamiliar situation. Okay, let's say you want to study for your BMAT. You really, really want to get a good score in your BMAT exam because you want to do well. So, you revise and you study. But then at one point, just get bored. You want to watch Netflix, you want to go on YouTube, play games, whatever. So you also now want to watch Netflix. So you have these two conflicting desires, these two desires in direct opposition. One, watch Netflix. One, revise. So what happens now? So if you end up going and watching Netflix, you're technically doing what you desire, but it becomes at the expense of another desire, which in this case is to study for exams. You have to give up one desire to fulfill another desire. So what does this mean for John Stuart Mill's definition of liberty? I think you could argue that his definition is a bit simplistic, and that liberty is not always about doing what you desire, because liberty can also be about self-actualization. What do I mean by this? So sometimes liberty is about freeing yourself from desire. It's about giving up desire as opposed to just fulfilling a desire. So think about Gala's 1996 hit single, Freed from Desire. Freed from desire, mind and senses purified is the repeated line in the chorus. And actually, this is an idea discussed in Buddhism. And there is this Buddhist idea of vimutti, that in order to truly liberate ourselves, to truly achieve great freedom, we must also remove desires. We need to free ourselves from desires such as greed or gluttony. So this could be in direct opposition, in fact, to what John Stuart Mill says, that it's not just about doing what one desires, it also can be about reconciling desires that are in direct opposition and giving up base desires to achieve a greater position of freedom. So now have a go at writing your own paragraph as part of the counter argument, and then I'll show you something that I've done. So this is what I've done. However, Mill's statement that liberty is simply doing what one desires ignores the common occurrence when two desires come into direct opposition. The desire to smoke directly contradicts the desire to live healthier. The desire to steal directly contradicts the desire to be a good person. Buddhism offers an answer that in order to achieve true liberty and cast off our mental shackles, we must remove ourselves of base desires. Therefore, it could be argued that liberty also consists of giving up desires as a part of a process to reach a point of self-actualization and higher liberty. Finally, we have to argue to what extent you agree that freedom is doing what you want. I've outlined the arguments we've discussed so far, and this question is open, and I must admit, as I mentioned earlier, I struggle to reach some sort of satisfying conclusion. Nevertheless, do have a go at it, and you can answer it any way you want. You could have come up with arguments that I didn't come up with, and feel free to include those. And so have a go at answering this, your concluding paragraph, and then I'll show you something that I've done. So this is what I've done. Though sometimes liberty may involve not doing what one desires, and by letting go said desires to reach a point of self-actualization, in my view, that is still a case of doing what you want. It is simply an additional step of reconciling opposing desires and fears from a more rational standpoint in order to help you understand what you truly want to do. Therefore, I agree with John Stuart Mill in stating that freedom is the ability to do what you want, just with the caveat that knowing what one actually desires is a key part to truly being free.